today we got to play Hamlet, the village building game. So this is about village building, surprisingly enough. It is, you got a player board.
Well, it's a central building area.
It's a central building area where there's different buildings, and as a team, you'll end up, not quite as a team.
Well, it's a communal city, but you're all out for your own best interest.
Yes, you want to be the best out of the village. But before we get into it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, because board games are amazing, and that's what we do here at Legends of Nirvana. Now, Randy, can you tell us a little bit more about this game from Mighty Boards?
I can. It's a 2022 release. Board Game Geek rating is currently 7.0, and rank is 2697. It is a 1 to 4 player game. It says average length of 60 to 90 minutes. We've not finished in 90 minutes yet, but here's hoping.
Well, I mean, I think that partly depends on your players and how long they like to take making decisions.
Or how many questions they ask repeatedly throughout the game.
Well, I mean, that wasn't, either one of those are my issues.
No. Age 10 and up. Designed by David Chirkop. Art by Yusuf Artun. And as you mentioned, published by Mighty Boards Games. Now, this is the deluxe version, so this is the Kickstarter
It's the Founders Deluxe. Look, they put a little sticker, which I think people should do this more often. I think this is so cool. And it has the number out of the print and everything, so that's awesome sauce. So, whoever has number 1, you're awesome.
So what's the deluxe about it are these metal coins. These are exclusive to this. You have printed meeples, which will
screen printed,
screen printed, and also the wood bits or the resources, and then you have a cardboard church. Don't even try to assemble it; just throw it in the trash. It was a piece of garbage. They gave you a little sticker sheet to hold the pieces together. Yeah, all it did was stick to everything in the box, and I didn't even bother assembling more than the central piece of it. Everything in there was just very flimsy cardboard, very thin. It's a piece of garbage. The rest of it, pretty nice. We'll get into that. But the church that is the bonus.
Well, you're already kind of in quality components. You've basically talked about everything.
Well, I haven't talked about the pricing. So this Kickstarter edition, right now, if you want it, the only place I've seen it available, apart from a used copy on Board Game Geek, is Noble Knight. They have it for $62.96, which is pricey. You can get it like new on Board Game Geek for $40 for the deluxe edition. Now, if you want the retail version, it's $34.97 is the cheapest, and that's at Game Nerds. Nerds with a Z. And then CSI, Cool Stuff Inc. has it $37.49. Miniature Market is $39.99, which I think is the MSRP on it anyway. Which is, again, we're seeing the trend here. Miniature Market's been going more and more towards MSRP, which I don't like seeing that trend, but seems to be happening more and more. Card House doesn't even carry this, so I didn't see it on their website at all. So that's the pricing I could find online for it.
Yeah, so, and Randy kind of talked about the differences between the deluxe and the retail, so we'll be obviously basing our score on the deluxe version, because that's what we have in front of us. So there is the screen printed meeples. I thought they were pretty cool. There's actually a front and a back, so you actually have a little worker that's going about. You also have screw printed donkeys, as well as resources. The resources are kind of but they're screen printed too.
They're tiny. That's the biggest issue. I mean, the whole game, everything is very tiny. It can get jostled easily. The tiles don't interlock, so they're just fitting together. And if somebody's...
Well, they have to, because you've got so many different shapes, and you can get a different board every single time, so...
Well, I agree. It's just, it'd be better if they were larger, right? The fact that they're as tiny as they are, they bump easily and kind of scatter.
Well, when you get a full board, though, it gets pretty big. So if you had it any bigger, you may have a problem with, real estate.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why they did it. I don't like it, especially when the impact it had on these, because the resources are easily going to be lost. The tiles do have a linen finish on them. They all have a nice finish on them, as do the ribbons for awards that you can get during the course of the game, and all the draw tiles for which I think the retail or the plan was that they were going to have these be drawn from the bag, but the problem with that is you can feel the shapes of them. So they went and changed it and added in these tiles, and I think that was the right decision. These draw tiles that you can use to replace drawing these from the bag. The bag's printed with the shapes on there as if you were drawing those big tiles, but you really draw these little.
Well, and I think that's fine.
Hexagons, and the bag is nice. It's a nice linen bag.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if it's linen or not, but it's a nice bag. It's got the printing of the name on it, and yeah. All in all, I think the coins are really nice. The coins are best part of the game, I would say. I'm kind of about the token or the tiles. These wood bits are really tiny, as I mentioned, but nothing's bad other than the church, the 3D printed cardboard church. That's the only.
Well, it's not
piece.
3D printed. It's just a 3D.
3D cutout.
But here's the thing, though. I mean, I'm hopefully, and if they already have it exists, maybe someone can link it. Is an actual, someone that has a 3D printer can 3D print the church. I like this game enough. I will probably end up doing that, figuring out if there's one already out there. I'm not good enough to actually print it myself, but hopefully it's already out there or someone's already working on it and they love me enough. But, the thing is it is a little small, but at the same time, you've got this, you end up building this big board, and I get why they did what they did. And I'm still okay with it. I didn't, like, that was your one complaint. He was like, oh, because I wanted to play it again. And he was like, oh, it's just so small pieces.
Well, it is. When you got big fat fingers and you're trying to put things around, it's easy to get things bumped and jostled. Or, if you got little ones like Sarah or old ones like your dad that are bumping things. I mean, it gets, you have to sit there and reset the board a lot. And it's just a nuisance.
Well, I guess with the whole turning the people up, I guess maybe, but I didn't really foresee it being an issue. As far as quality of components, I'm probably going to give this a 7.5. Everything they did well. Specifically the coins. The coins were really the only outstanding feature. However, what are you thinking?
I'm probably more of a 6.5. I think the coins.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think the coins are really the only thing that I would give it higher for. But
you've got the linen finish. You've got the screen painted maples. I mean, there's a lot more than your average. Game.
I'm giving it a 6.5. It's above average. I mean, the coins are the only thing that really catches your eye, and the meeples are okay too, as far as the painting on them. But apart from that, there's just nothing that's stellar.
Okay, all right. So, let's move on to the actual theme. I like the theme. Mm-hmm. I like building, so I get to build my little Hamlet, and I have my little meeples with my donkeys. I have fun.
Yeah.
I mean, and the artwork's actually, I think, pretty good for it. Especially the tile pieces, you actually get to see the buildings. So they're all pretty unique, I think. So they did a really good job there. The color palette's fine. I'm probably going to give this a 7.5 on theme as well. I liked it. It was cute.
Well, one of the things to point out is the origin of the Hamlet. You've got basically a hamlet is a small village that doesn't have a church in Old England. So now if you build a church, it becomes a village. So you're trying to, when it says a village building, you truly are turning a hamlet into a village by building the church. So that's what the central focus of this. I think they've done a good job of making that feel like you're trying to accomplish that. Also, you've got the fact that it's a communal hamlet where everybody's resources are shared, and that's something unique, I think, that you don't see in a lot of games. You don't take ownership of the resources. We had to keep reminding people of that because people wanted to take the resources. Like, no, you've got to use them, but they're available to anyone once you produce them.
Yeah, so, which can get tricksy because, like, you're trying to do something and people, the person before you took your resources that you needed for your thing.
So then you spend your turn building them, so somebody else takes them again by the time your turn comes around. But
you get victory points, or you get money for doing that. And certain resources, you actually get victory points. So I don't, I think the first game I played, my strategy was let people use my resources. That's fine. And I did pretty well doing that. I got pretty darn close to winning. You just built so much at the church. No one could compete. And that's the biggest thing is don't forget the church. Don't let one person get all their little tokens out, okay?
That is the central point of the game, is building the church. So you want to keep up on that because there's a lot of victory points to be had.
Well, there's just so much other stuff to do and it's fun. So I think that's and I think that's why I enjoy it so much.
That's probably why the game lasted over 2 hours too, because the fact that people were not actually doing what you're trying to do.
Well, no, that's not true. I actually tried, but it's hard because you got to get the donkeys in the right spot. You got to, whatever. So.
But thematically, I think it does incorporate the village building aspect. It does a really effective job of that. I think the tiles being as small as they are, sometimes it makes things hard to see between the forest areas and the stone areas, and some of it kind of blends together because of the way it's printed. It's not horrible, but it's just because it is so small. If you've got bad eyes, it's kind of hard to sometimes differentiate. Is this connecting? Is this not? And the way the tiles are different sizes sometimes can cause confusion. I know it's confused me every game we've played, because I want to say a section is the side, where it's actually just like part of a side, and some
it's
tiles.
Half a side, yeah.
It's not even half a side. I mean, that's like a third of that
one. It's a hexagon, essentially.
Yeah,
it's the side of a hexagon.
Yeah, but the shapes are not hexagonal. So when you're connecting, it's it is kind of confusing. You've got to say, oh, does this really qualify? Can I connect this here? Because you can't connect certain conditions when it's on that side, on a side like that. But otherwise, it does qualify. So it's kind of strange.
I think you were the only one having issues with it.
I know, because it's confusing sometimes.
No.
I want my shapes to match up, and it doesn't do that.
I think you're just getting old.
Well, I know that.
No, but what are you going to give it a score for theme?
I'll probably go ahead and give it a 7. I think it does a decent job effectively conveying the mechanics into the gameplay. It does a nice job of making you feel like you are in a communal Hamlet building the village. You're not cooperating in this, but you are sharing the resources. So I think it does an effective job of that. So I think 7's a good score.
Okay, all right. So let's move on to the actual rule book. What did you think of the rule book?
All right, so the rule book is 12 pages in length. It has a nice cover on the front that actually does not match the cover of the box, just a little portion of it does. It goes into nice big print as far as the components. It's huge pictures of them. But the pictures on this, I wish they were this size. That's the thing. These are actually bigger than the components on the board. So, yeah, and then the setup...
It sounds like they need to make a giant version of this for you.
Yes,
for the old people.
That's right.
And I wouldn't mind. I'll take it.
Yeah. So, they show, a nice setup section telling you how everything sets up. Now, they did have a misprint on one of these tiles, and it's probably no big deal, but we just got to find it and pull it out, because every time it cycles back in and we draw it, and then we end up like, oh, this isn't the right shape for that. And turns out they've got 2 tiles in there for it, and you have to remove one of them. So we've got to make sure we do that. But apart from that, the setup's pretty clear. And this setup, I think, is set up for... It shows the pictures of the deluxe, but it's more defining how to set it up with the retail, because it's telling you to put these tiles in the bag and not using these at all. Doesn't even mention those. Then goes into the play, and here's where the adjacency thing that I mentioned, it's got showing you where you can and can't place, and that's where it gets confusing, because it looks like it's saying you can't place if it doesn't take up the whole side.
Well, no, it has to do with it can't be in the middle of the side. You have to put it on an edge. Yeah, essentially a corner or an edge.
But I don't think there was anything really confusing about the rules as we went through. And the tiles are pretty much self-explanatory, so you don't really need a cheat sheet for them. The iconography is pretty clear. There was a little confusion between the cost and the benefit of building the tile versus consuming the tile. A few times we had explained, particularly with your dad. But I don't think it was bad. It was just some confusion that came from it. So, I think it does an effective job on explaining how to play and everything. And there is a building glossary on the back that if you do have any confusion, it's got the details for each building, which is nice. I think they did a nice job on the rulebook. I'm probably going to go ahead and give this a 9.
Okay, awesome. So now let's talk about gameplay. So if I'm first player, I start out with 3 money. Randy's going to start with 4, and it differs between the player counts, so you can look in the book based on those player counts. All right, so at the beginning of the game, I'm going to start with 1 meeple and 1 donkey in the center. Now, your meeple can move anywhere on the board.
As long as it's connected by a road.
Correct. Or a path.
Yeah.
And then a little bit of a caveat to that as well is that your donkeys actually move goods. Now, your donkey is also, it's very similar to Catan roads, okay? So just kind of keep that in mind.
Although they can be moved but you can only move them one space, and it's basically more like the boats, if you will. And
yeah, so just kind of keep that in mind as we go and kind of understand the game. All right, so I've got a couple of actions that I can initially take at the beginning of the game. I can either go to a resource space and generate resources, which generate me money, which is very, very useful. Or I can go to the market and sell some items. The other thing is I can go to the town hall, which allows me to pick a tile, and based on the placement, there may be some additional cost to that tile. Or I can either buy myself a worker, a donkey, and that goes from there. Now, the increase for the worker goes up per worker. So like the first one you buy is only 5, but the second one's 7, and the third's 9. So just kind of keep that in mind that they, they go up over.
And all donkeys are 3, regardless.
Yes, no matter what. Okay. All right. So so that's basically the actions at the start. But if I go here, I'm going to end up picking a tile, and this tile is going to give a new action, or maybe a duplicate of another action, but generally speaking, it will, add more options as you throughout the game. So at the very beginning, it seems a little bit restricted, but as you start building, it becomes a lot more, what am I going to do now? I'm not really sure. So in this case, I'll pick up a free tile because it's 0 at that place. This will go down.
And then we draw another token from the bag, and it tells us what one to add. So we got a pond.
Yeah, so, and then we'll refill it. So I've used this worker. I've exhausted it, so I'm lying it flat here, which means it can't really do much. So I'm pretty much done. I have no other workers to do. I have no other actions. I don't have any place really to spend my money. So that's the end of my turn. And then it will go to Randy. And that will continue. And that's essentially the game until the church is finished. And to do the church, that's the other action I didn't talk about, because at the beginning of the game, you don't have any of the resources to do that. Is based on the different spot of the church.
Now, there's upgraded resources, and that's very key to the game, is you start out with basically rudimentary resources, and these are communal that everyone has access to. As you build these buildings, they're going to let you basically upgrade those resources, refine them.
Yeah.
And the first person to do that will get a perk for doing that. The first person to build a building that allows you to do that, I should say, where these tokens are two-sided, one side being with a black face on the front and the second being with a white face on it. And if you are the first to build a building that produces, you are going to be allowed to build the white ones, which are the enriched version, and everyone else can only build a basic version of these resources. They can still use your building to do it and produce it, but the value is basically doubled for the good if you produce it if you're with the person that has the expertise in that.
Yeah. So for example, the one I picked up was the dairy farm, so I would produce milk if I were to play that. But the key thing is, and this is Brain forgot this last game, I didn't forget it, you have to consume a common resource to build the milk, okay? And that allows for people to continually gain money, because really the only place to gain money, or the more likely one, the market does a little bit, but is mostly by generating resources. So just kind of keeping that in mind. But yeah, that's the end. You develop the village, so you eventually have enough resources to be able to build the church. I really like this game. I liked it with, I guess, everybody else. I had fun. Even though I lost both times, I still enjoyed it. I thought it was I don't know, I like building. I like resource management. And I enjoy some of that communal feel without having a little bit of competition. I enjoy that. There's definitely no attacking in this game. So overall, I really enjoyed it. What are your thoughts on it?
Well,
besides the pieces are small. I got that.
Yeah, no, I like the feel of being able to build out the village. I do like that. I think that the production of the resources is a clever, where it's communal and you produce and you get monies for doing that. But the problem is there's a lot of times you get stalled where the resources are all there, you need money. They do give you the option of begging at the church in those situations, but it gives you 1 coin. So it's basically a waste of your turn to get that 1 coin. But if you're desperate, that's,
But there, in a lot of games, there's that desperate move.
I understand that. I'm just saying this one, it hurts pretty bad if you lose your action, because especially early when you've got one person, one meeple, if you can't produce money is critical in this game.
Right. Well, I mean, even then, so you begging at the church gets you 1 money. But over here, it's 2 money. So it's not like, I mean, it's half effective. Yeah. So still's not great. But it could be a lot worse.
Yeah.
So and I think you have to plan accordingly, and that can be kind of tricky. Mm-hmm. But money is very, very important in this game. Every coin is valuable.
And the other thing is, when you start the game out, there's really only one path open. So when you build a building, you can build it anywhere, touching any face, as long as you don't have a path that's running into nowhere. You can't build it where the path connects to a forested area or a stone area. But that building will not be available for use until someone connects it with one of their bridges or...
Yeah, that's the one thing I didn't understand. For example, like the cutter, I wish they would have given...
more paths. I think that it needed more paths.
Well, I think maybe having one off the cutter and then one off of the town hall, like maybe coming this way, I think that would have...
Because early in the game, you stall a lot because you don't have enough donkeys to reach over further than just that one path. And so you end up, everybody basically racing to either go to the market or to get that path being built quickly with a building, because otherwise you're not going to be able to use it for a while until someone goes and builds the connecting roads, bridges.
Well, I mean, at the same time, though, it's not that difficult to build a path. So to build a path, it costs you, if it's from stone to stone, it's 2 wood, which is very easy to get. Mm-hmm. And the same thing for the, if it's wood to wood, it's 2 stone, which again, really easy to get.
But it's not the cost of it that matters. It's the resource of the fact that I have to use my meeple to do it, because you only get to start with 1 meeple. So that it doesn't give you any benefit, really.
Except gives you a location. Now, I really wish they maybe would have given like a victory point value.
Well, they do.
Even if it was 1 or something.
They do give you for the victory points if you get the person who builds it first, you get it. And then there's certain buildings, which we didn't really mention.
I'm talking about the bridges. I feel like their only one is where you have the
there's a tile that also does it.
Oh, okay.
So, I'm saying there's ways to do it, because there's some of the tiles are not just production. Some of them are victory point conditions. And I did like that. They had a lot of range and variety in those.
I liked the different buildings that we saw. I thought they were very unique and different and not the same, mm-hmm. which is great. And that's why I think I liked it so much, is that there was a lot to do while building this little village of yours. And I really appreciated that, because I got a lot of the fixes that I like. This is the reason why I play the games. It's here for this game. So
yeah. As far as scoring, I'm probably about a 7 on it. I think it's a good game. I think it could have been better. I think my biggest issue is the tactile aspects of it. I don't like it being as tiny as it is, that we talked about. It turns me away from wanting to play it because it's so tiny. I would rather be more.
Now, let's say if there was the giant version of this,
I would probably play it more.
And what would you score it if that was the case?
Probably still a 7.5. I wouldn't go up too high. I mean, it's a good game. I still don't think it's got enough variety in scoring. There is variety in the sense you can compete by getting those bonus tiles, or you can compete by completing the church. But really, those are the 2 main paths to victory.
Well, and you can also have everyone use your resources, because I got pretty close going that route myself.
Well, yeah, if you produce a lot of the double valued ones early, if you're the first to get 2 or 3 of those down, it's going to help you. But usually you're going to get 1 or 2, but everybody else is going to get 1 too. So we've not played it yet where we haven't had everybody had at least 1 of the upgraded resources. And, so it's not like that's going to...
Well, I mean, the first time I played, I ended up getting 2 of them, and I think maybe that's what helped.
You had 2, but everybody else had 1 at least. And, so it helps, but it's not a huge help.
Right. I mean, I think it's just a matter of play style, but I think there is something to be said about being able to do some of this. I liked it obviously a lot more than you. I'm gonna give this an 8. I really enjoyed it.
That's not a lot more than me.
Well, no, I mean it's really good. I want to play this again. However, I do think, and I hope to see expansions with this. I do think give it a couple.
News for you. There's already one in the works.
Oh, yay! This makes me excited.
Yes.
No, my thing is I do feel like it may get a little stagnant 10, 15 plays in.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my only concern. So maybe add some expansions. Hopefully we'll see a lot more playability on that front. And that's the only reason why I give it an 8 is because I would play this to where I got bored with it.
The expansion is supposed to hit Kickstarter in July.
Okay, well, we're backing that. If anyone was wondering. Yeah, so I think that's great. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We had an absolute blast today, and hopefully you'll come hang out with us again. We'll catch you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.